Spinning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our little book club. If you are just stopping in, this is Read.Watch.VENT, where we watch movies and we read books and then we vent about which we liked better and what they did to murder the story. and also what we really liked about it, because usually we actually end up really liking it. So, so this is your Thursday night. I was going to say your Friday night movie book fix, but it's Thursday night. So it's your Thursday night movie book fix. I am here. My name is Chloe. I stream here. If you're watching us on Twitch, I stream here on the Uncanny Pros. We have a D&D channel, which is super fun, and we usually go on Tuesday nights. These other lovely ladies who are with me are a couple fellow actor, writer, director types, sort of from all over the place. And they both have some cool projects that they're working on right now. Emily, do you want to let everybody know what you're working on?
Sure. So I am producing an indie film. It's called Joey Witten is a Big Stupid Idiot and I Hate Him. And if you're in the Oklahoma area, then that is where we are shooting it. But we're also taking a road trip from Oklahoma to Maine, and we're going to try to do it in a week. And I don't know how it's going to happen. We're going to try to make it work. So if you have any interest in supporting indie film, you can Venmo us at Big Stupid Idiot Film. We always need more money, as all artists do. So that's what I'm working on.
It'll be fun. It'll be an adventure.
It will.
I forgot to check with you beforehand, Erin. Do you have any irons in the fire other than just being fabulous and relocating to a wonderful city?
Well, that is my iron in the fire. I relocated to a new wonderful city so I can put my iron in that fire. And so, you know what? We're in the process. We're stretching it out. We're getting, settled so that, we can take iron, insert into fire. Soon. Right now, I'm just trying to find Big Stupid Idiot so I can
Oh, yeah, it's an honor. Yes. Thank you, Erin.
Well, cool. So today we are discussing the show/book Shadow and Bone. If you do not know, it is a show on Netflix, and it is based on a young adult novel of the same title. And it's kind of, I don't know, we always start this thing out with like a 30-second summary of what we think this book is. So do you guys want to, before we get into the genre discussion, should we each give our little 30-second summary of what this story is?
Yes.
Emily, do you want to start?
I'd love to. So this is about a young woman named Alina, and she is, of course, very insignificant, has no specialness about her until she does. And she is the most special woman in all the land and is going to save the world with her magical powers. She's called a sun summoner. And so basically she lives in kind of this like medieval Russian inspired world-ish. And she is trying to battle all the demons of the world, but also battle her inner turmoil of falling for her longtime best friend, but then this new mysterious man.
All right, that's 30 seconds. You're good.
Solid.
There's always a new mysterious man. Erin, what would you like to add?
Love and strength of will conquer all.
Aww.
That's all the moral of the story. As my father says, it's the moral of the story of everything except for Hamlet. I got yelled at in college for trying to say that love and strength of will was the theme of Hamlet.
Your teacher's like, that's not what are you even talking about?
Oh, if he could have thrown something at me, he would have.
Wow, that's fun. Don't touch Hamlet. I mean, professors are very, very attached to their Hamlet. Like
Correct.
that's
No, but it was a rough moment because everyone was like, what's the theme of Hamlet? What's the theme of Hamlet? And people were throwing things out and he was like, no. And yes, love and strength of will conquer all. And he goes, are you stupid?
You're like, no, I'm just enthusiastic. What is it? You
Goodness.
keep saying no.
So he was a very smart man who has very, very little social skills.
Mm.
Ugh.
Sorry, continue.
No, that's fine. I think my 30-second summary would be yes, there is a young girl who is entirely unimportant until she is, because we are all the hero of our own story, and inevitably she has a love triangle that are with two guys that inexplicably don't work with her at all, and it's dramatic. It's very dramatic. Drama ensues, as does magic and hijinks.
Oh, sorry, it is not magic. It is the small
science.
Until it gets big, and then it's just magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's something that we can talk about going in. So that's part of the story. We have these characters that do the small sciences, which is like magic, but not. So they have these powers.
All right. We will get into this. We will get into the mechanics of the magic. if you're watching this and you know this show and you have stuff to add about like, oh no, you missed like this was the core of the story and you missed it, tell us. Let us know in the comments.
There's a stag, a really pretty deer.
There's a really pretty deer, stag, who's appropriate. Anyway, before we get into the actual book, couple of housekeeping things. First of all, there will be some spoilers in this discussion because that is inevitable. So if you have read the book and you don't care, great. If you haven't read the book and you do care, maybe come back and watch this again in a week. We are not going to be spoiling the show as much as possible. We really are only going to be covering like episodes 1 through 3 of the show. Although I went ahead and finished the show and it's super fun, very flamboyant. And then for those of you who are just stopping in to be like, hey, what are you guys doing? And I'm sort of piecing out now because I don't have time. Our schedule is going to be up on the Uncanny Prose Facebook page. So you can find them on Facebook. And our schedule will also be posted here on Twitch. But the next couple books we're going to do, and I will announce these again at the end, we are going to be discussing the Reincarnation Papers and the movie Infinite on September 23rd, which should be super fun. It's like a really dark sci-fi story. Our Halloween show is going to be October 21st. And that is going to be I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I recently discovered was a book before it was a movie. So we're going to discuss classic slasher thrillers. And then November 18th is going to be Dune. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew we're going to do Dune so you can reserve it at the library and start reading it now because it's basically 7,000 pages long.
It's a big
Aaron just found this out. It's not 7,000 pages long. I think it's only 3. It's fine. You'll be fine.
Audiobooks.
It's great. Be listening for the next 10 years, Aaron. Good luck.
No, it's great.
You do not know. You have no idea how much I have binge listened to get to this point.
Oh.
Well, anyway, so back to our lovely little discussion about Shadow and Bone. And before we dive into this book, I wanted to talk a little bit about young adult as a genre, because I feel like it has come into its own at post like 2000s, really. Wow. Apparently it was actually like a whole little genre of literature as far back as like the 30s, where it was supposed to be stories specifically aimed at the emotions of the adolescents.
Yeah.
Are we talking like Nancy Drew?
Kind of. I mean, some of that would have been like YA stuff, just like formulaic. It typically centered around one specific hero. Mm-hmm. So like literally like you're the hero of your own story. So you can see yourself as Nancy Drew, or you can see yourself as Katniss Everdeen, or you can see yourself as that person. It's not like a novel of the era where you have this whole cast of characters that you're sort of like thinking about and caring about. It's really about this one character and them finding their purpose and thus saving the world, which of course is very appealing to teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of fell out of favor in like the 70s and 80s because authors just started getting really formulaic with it. They started addressing like social issues like drugs and divorce and you know, high school bullying and stuff like that. And it just kind of became real formulaic, and teenagers were like, I live this. Why would I novelize this? I don't like it. But then, like in the post 9/11 world, dystopian and fantasy YA emerged. And that is basically what the genre is now. And it has not just captured the imagination of adolescents. It is like, I mean, I don't know. I'm in my 30s, guys, and I'm reading YA.
Yes.
And I know plenty of other adults who just really like the genre.
I think it's really interesting because I know a lot of us like who grew up reading YA are still like I'm really like I'm invested in the nostalgia of it and just like the feeling of like loving this fantasy world or whatever young adult genre it is. But so I know there's like some book series out now that are really popular that are kind of like the same young adult vibes. They're just like there's this thing kind of going around like new adult or even just like adult novels where it's like sexier or just like has some more adult themes, but it's still got that same vibe that we all love and like we were all addicted to, which is why like Hunger Games was so popular and all this other stuff, because like people love this stuff. And so I love that young adult has an older sister of new adults, and it's like thriving right now.
Yeah.
Didn't know about that.
Yep. It's very new, but it makes sense because all of us millennials, we got to be old and we were like, well, I mean, I know what all the euphemisms are now, so can I just write a book with all them in it?
Yeah.
But my life is still fundamentally the same as it was when I graduated college because the economy hasn't moved on. So, I'm kind of stuck in the economy and I still want to be the hero of my own story.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's a big generational just like longing to be able to be like, I want to make a difference somehow. Yeah. I don't know how. And if the only way I can make a difference is by finishing this gosh darn book, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Sorry. Because here's the thing, is that we all knew when we were reading YA books, because I know that I've read them, is that they were all centered around one main character who does something that makes a difference. But like, now thinking about it, I'm like, holy crap, they had us like down pat. Like every single one. Hero of your own story. They're young. This was something I was going to go on about. Okay, so how in all of these books, in the books, everyone's like, yeah, that girl, she wasn't very pretty. Like, she had bad skin and her hair was dull and yeah, she wasn't that pretty. But then she becomes special and suddenly she becomes gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Because that's how it happens, magic. But then in television, it's like they come in and they're like,
glasses. I'm so ugly. I have glasses.
We're already gorgeous. And someone's trying to be like, ugh, look at you.
Hideous.
So you're so ugly. You're out of the, like, Shoe. They kept calling her Shoe. Which is like apparently, sorry, I'm going.
No, that's fine. So in this book, there is like a racial slur that gets thrown around a lot, and it's Shoe, and it's because of the casting in the show. It's because she looks Asian, which fun story is actually fairly accurate for medieval Russians of the time. They did not like people who looked different than them. They were actually real xenophobic. So it's accurate for the place and for the flavor that it was grabbing. But continue.
Okay, cool. We'll come back to that. But like they just, it's like Okay, so there's this character who her magic power, sorry, small science, is pretty much being able to go, whoo, makeup, whoo, let me clear up your acne, whoo, your hair is gorgeous. This character in the television show was doing this and that on her face that's like healing her wounds, healing her scars that were non-existent.
She did have a CGI scar on her forehead.
Was that I thought that was real.
There was one real one, and then there was a CGI one for some reason.
Yeah, I was wondering if that one was like a real scar of the actor.
Yeah, no, because I kept.
There's one that stayed, but in that scene, I specifically remember there being two, and she got rid of one, and I was like, "Are you getting rid of the other one? Are you getting rid of?" Nope.
And that's how you know it's.
It's why. Here's the thing. I think there's a level of. On the surface, it seems totally superficial to be like, "Oh, you become special, and now you're amazing." But I think there's something that if especially teenagers could take away from it, a lot of this has to do with your perception of yourself. Like you didn't fundamentally change, but you are acting different now because you know you have power, and that is attractive. That confidence is attractive. And I think that can be portrayed when you are playing it on screen as one actor, a little bit easier than in a book where you're like, ooh, she's super drab, but now she's hot. You know, and it can just be, oh, now she's hot, but it doesn't have to be. And these books actually tend to be written for women. So the male gaze is a little bit different, I feel like, in the tone that the looks and the progressions discussed.
Yeah, I liked that what made Alina, the protagonist of The Shadow and Bone, what I liked about her was that she was kind of different from a lot of other YA protagonists that we see. Like most of the time they're like, I just think of Katniss Everdeen, you know, she's tall, she's strong, she's you know, she's beautiful, but she doesn't know it kind of thing.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the standard of just like really powerful women. And the whole time she was described in the book, she was like, you know, they called her Sticks because she was super skinny and she was like shrimpy and small and kind of puny. And then once she really developed her power, then it wasn't just like she looked more strong. It's like she physically felt stronger. Like she actually had stamina now. She could, you know, endure these fights or whatever, because before she was always resisting her power. And then once she came into her own and was like, okay, I'm not going to resist anymore. This is who I am. Then she physically became stronger. And so I think that kind of ties back into what you were saying, Chloe, about how like, you become more attractive, you know, these characters become more attractive because they have confidence now and they know themselves a lot more.
Yeah.
Something interesting, because talking about, you know, good old Katniss Everdeen, I've noticed that in a bunch of, you know, YA novels, if you have a female character, she's very scrappy, you know, like gonna punch your lights out cold, that sort of a thing. But what kind of struck me, the character difference between the television show and the book, is that in the book, she seems very much like she is very separate from the pack, but also like very much trying to blend in.
Yeah.
And she's not scrappy. She's a map maker. She starts off, she's a map maker. Her best friend, Mel, is a tracker. They're both in the army, but she's like, she's trying to blend into the like paper stuff, and she's not even very good at it. Like, she's just like, I got nothing going for me. Why are you lying? But then in the one in the book, or the one in the television show, Elena in the television show, you know, they show like her and her past and her reactions to stuff, and like she will punch someone's lights out. There are examples of it where it's
a little more fire in her.
Yeah, a little bit more fiery. And I was wondering if they made a lot of changes in the television show that were not in the book, or at least the first book.
We do have that. Hey, real quick, I'm gonna pause you, Erin.
Synopsis, right?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Is there a way? I think because we're losing you just a little bit.
Oh no. Hello.
Is there a way?
Oh wait, you're going. Okay.
No, don't go anywhere. Is there a way to either move closer to your internet source or rebuffer somehow?
Try me. Okay.
Or maybe try a hotspot.
Hello.
Still loud.
Louder. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. It's still a little bit jumpy, but the sound is good.
Sound
Sound is loud.
Sound is most important.
Videos.
What are you gonna look at? You gonna look at my face? There's no need to look at my face. Just
We definitely want to look at your face. Your face is lovely.
Thank you. Well, I'll sit behind my tryptoph. It's a 3-panel painting.
Oh yeah, my mom used to have one of those, and I do not remember what it's called, but trypto something. Yes, that is it.
Whatchamacallit. Yes, I'm here. The lighting is not as good, but that's okay.
It's all good. We will. Hopefully this will work. Are you there?
Yes, I am there. Are you there?
We are.
Yes.
Can you see me?
I can see your arm. Now I can see your face.
Yeah, it's just lagging a lot. Maybe try, if you can go on a hotspot, maybe try that, or if you can like reboot your internet or something.
Well, continue talking while I go figure my life out.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to pause you on the screen real quick, and then message me in the private chat when you're good. All right. Sorry, guys. She's still here. We just want the technical difficulties to get smoothed over. All right. So we were kind of moving into like the adaptation between the book, like the differences between the book and the show. And we're going to have to get Erin's thoughts on this because she is the detail queen and she's always like, details, come on. But Emily, how did you feel about the adaptation with the general characters?
Yeah, so the show introduces some additional storylines that aren't in the first book. So that is really, that was surprising to see because there are a lot of characters that you don't know. But I thought they did a really good job, and it was really fun to switch between this storyline that we know really well and this other storyline that we don't really know, but they did a good job. I thought it was really interesting. I really liked the new characters that they added. So I don't know if that storyline is in later books. I know Chloe, you kind of mentioned that before we started streaming that might be the case, but I want to read the other books, and so I'm hoping that will sort of tie in there.
And for audience clarity, what possible storyline were you referring to? Additional storyline?
Yes. So the addition of like Jesper and let me pull up the name.
There's a whole storyline in the show about trying to capture Elena in order to basically use her to undermine the kingdoms somehow. It's like these guys want to kidnap her for someone. They're getting paid to kidnap her, and we're not entirely certain why. Other than the fact that she's basically like a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, which is very interesting for yeah, it was very interesting that, usually you think the person who is like the source of light, like Elena, she is the sun summoner, that's her title. She wields light and sunlight. Usually light, it only means good stuff.
Right.
Happy stuff.
Yep.
Banishing the darkness. Turns out this little sunflower can be used as a, like you said, weapon of mass destruction. Which, who would have thought?
Right?
It's not normal.
Yeah, it's very Star Wars-esque in the sense of like you can use the Force for good, but you can also use the Force for evil.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, we find out that later in the book that mysterious hot man who is very powerful is actually evil. But what's new? So
But yeah, there's one of the triangle is always evil. That has to happen. It is a rule in YA fiction.
Except for Twilight.
so
Wasn't there something wrong with the werewolf guy?
No, he
imprinted on the infant.
Which is weird. Like, let's be real. He's an adult. It's weird.
Monster.
There's consent issues there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Detail check. Okay. So in the book, all this I was about to say tall, dark, mysterious man. He was just called the Darkling. That's all. The Darkling. No name. This time my name is.
I think he does have a name early on. They just constantly refer to him as the Darkling.
I did not think, because in the television show they give him a name, they give him a backstory, they give him a whole other life, and his name's Alexander. Which, okay, tell me if I'm wrong. But why is it that in books such as this, like the female character always has something that sounds like Elena or Ilya, or there's an L involved and a N at the end, and then the what was the other one? Oh yeah, Alexander. People use names like they use those names a lot. Am I wrong?
I think it's because how they sound. You want a highly like consonanted sound so that it's a strong name.
Mm.
And the guys' names are usually stronger than the girls' names. The guys' names usually sound harder than the girls' names.
That's true.
I feel like Hunger Games is kind of an interesting twist on that because Katniss is a pretty strong consonant-heavy name, and
then you have Bread Boy,
who, in my opinion, is clearly the one of the two that she should be going with. So, is very soft, but that's part of his character is to be the soft one.
Yeah.
Like bread.
Yep, exactly.
Soft little bread boy.
Oh, but no, there's the thing as well. Gail, Mel. Like I feel like there's a consistency between these names where it's like the tough guy has a one syllable name, and then you've got a girl that has some sort of weird florally something going on with her name.
Yes.
L. And here's the thing, here's how I know this, I'm very conscious of this, because once upon a time back in middle school when I decided I was going to write my YA novel.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was going to be great. But the girl character, had to have a name that had an L. It was like Lena or something at the end of it. And I'm like, I feel like I recognize
I had a thing about names and I can't remember it.
I definitely get what you mean though. I think like the female names are always very like pretty and like they could be a princess name. Like they often feel very like old and what's the word? Like classic. Traditional.
I feel like that might have something to do with kind of the nostalgia factor of this whole genre in general, because on the one hand, you have this adolescent character that is like pushing forward and discovering their purpose and discovering love and occasionally like getting so far as to discover sex for the first time and saving the world. And it's just all very big. And yeah, you have the scrappy girl or the, you know, the sort of the good guy, like the nice guy, but they are all pretty rooted and grounded in like traditional gender norms.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's changed. That is changing a little bit as the genre is progressing in like especially the last like 6 or 7 years. But if you look back at it, I feel like a lot of that like floral soft girls names and like really strong boys names has to do with the fact that they're just like, we're just figuring out who we are, and we are fundamentally male and female, and everything that has to do with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is one thing that stuck out to me about this story, both in the novel and in the TV series, that I'm not going to say I was like offended by or anything like that, but it did kind of bother me because it got in the way of me liking the characters, because they just needed to fit kind of cookie cutterish into like, she's the feminine half of his power, of the Darkling's power, and so she just has to be softer and dismissed, and kind of like her agency is not really allowed to do anything throughout most of the story, both in the TV show and in the book. She doesn't get choices that are meaningful. But just like life just happens to her. What?
But she's so important. She's so important, but she doesn't get to make any of the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She's
No, Chloe, no.
Uh-oh, we lost Chloe.
using me.
No, Chloe.
Okay, your voice is back, but your video is out.
You're really stuck like on a picture view kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we can. Chloe.
Chloe, please come back.
Chloe, please. We're lost without you. We don't know how to run this live thing. Oh, well, okay. What were we saying?
We were talking about gender roles in young adult novel. Well, this novel too. And I do think, I think about this a lot because I really love this genre of book. This is like my shit. I love fantasy. I'm currently like reading a series that is just like the adult version of this book. It's very similar, like medieval vibes, fantasy world. And sometimes I'm like, I wish it wasn't so like heteronormative. I wish there weren't so many generals. But I also think like, I love a great like, enemies to lovers or like different power dynamic or whatever. And so it's like one of those things of, it's going to be a part of the genre, or it doesn't have to be, but, I don't know. I just get sucked into it. But I do want there to be like a great lesbian fantasy novel where the gender roles are just completely thrown out the window, But I think that is one of the shortcomings of these types of books is it is kind of like, especially because a lot of the books are set in like medieval times, or even if it's a fantasy world, like some old time period where the gender roles are pretty standard.
Yeah. No, and what's funny is that I think I've noticed this a lot because they did it, they kind of did it in Crazy Rich Asians as well, is that books will go a certain direction, but then the television show will try and kind of like spin it almost as if to please the audience in a way, which definitely. Like you don't want to say that because like but also like in the television show they just did little things where it's like in one of the side plots with there were like 2 other side plots with characters that were not from this original book, just so you know. So I don't know anything about them, but I know that there was like one part where it's like side plot guy and side plot girl. Side plot guy is like, oh yes, well the women in my village, they do not know how to fight. And the girl's like, yeah, well, the people in my village, boys and girls, learn to fight next to each other. You suck. Sort of a thing. And I'm like, that wasn't in the books. You're not wrong, but wasn't in the book.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think especially like TV shows and movies coming out now, like really like to capitalize on like women wanting, or like women audience members like wanting strong female characters. And so like they throw us a bone and do something like that. So even if it wasn't in the book, they try to get it in there. So it's like, this is a feminist show. So.
Is she back? Wait, no, we got a messenger notification.
Yeah. Chloe said internet is totally out. Oh no.
No.
Okay, maybe she's gonna try to reboot and jump back in.
We can just keep chit-chatting. Hi folks. So just so you know, this is really more for us than it is for you. We hope you're enjoying.
Okay, well, let's move on to a question, and hopefully Chloe can jump back in.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about adaptation following the original text. There was another side plot that wasn't in the TV show. Erin, who was your favorite actor, and what was your favorite part of the book or the TV show?
Okay, so favorite actor, like you cannot blame me. It's Madam Hooch. Madam Hooch is in Shadow and Bone, the television show, and she plays the badass teacher lady who will hit you until you actually do the thing she wants you to. Of course I love her. Of course she's my favorite. So yeah, Madam Hooch. I should know what her name is. I think she also played
Zoe Wanamaker?
That's her name? Her name is Zoe?
Yes, it is.
No. Well, okay. Zoe. Did not expect that, but okay. Zoe. Yes, love Zoe. And my favorite part in the books. Here's what I wish. I wish that we could have learned more about the different sections, different kinds of Grisha. So you know, they're the magical beings, the manipulators of the small sciences are called Grisha. And there are different kinds of them. There are corporalici, etherealici, and something kind of kai. You have the corporalici, which are like they can manipulate stuff in your body, which is scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah, because you've got some that are like, yes, let me make you feel happy, sad, heat you up / also explode your heart. And then you've got a healer over here. And then you've got the summoners, and you've got water, you've got air, you've got fire, and then you've got sun summoner, which is our girl Elena. And then you've got the purple color, which is something mechanical. There are fabricators that make things, and then some other folks who I don't know what they do. Therefore, I wish that I could know more about them. Y'all are hearing my phone going off.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's Chloe trying to message us so she can get back in, I think. But
it's coming on my computer now as well. I don't know what
I also agree that I would have liked to know a little bit more about the Grisha. There is also a whole like wiki page about like all of the universe and everything, which is really cool to read up about. I'm also, like I said, I also really like this genre, and so I'm like reading another book in this genre, and they are it's like a lot of exposition and a lot of detail, and the character is always asking questions about, you know, things in the universe, which can sometimes feel a little bit, you know, like a little bit inauthentic, because it's like, okay, we wouldn't have so many like, this is what this is. It doesn't feel as natural, but also it's good to know all about the world. And with this book, I feel like it's a lot less of that and more of, you know, the author mentions something once and it's like, we're like, okay, what is that? And then we just have to use context clues later to figure out like what this Grisha does, or, you know, what this thing means, or what language they speak, or like what really country they're in. So it's a lot of like kind of figuring out as you go, which can be cool and like make you feel like a detective. But I think it is harder to sort of flesh out the world.
Yeah, it's like, because my context is Harry Potter always. It's just like Harry didn't ask enough questions. This particular character knew a bit too much about the environment that she was in for the reader's sake. I just wanted a little bit more. But my favorite part is, okay, here's something. I wish Chloe was here.
I know. So for everyone still watching, her internet is out at her apartment. Such unfortunate timing. So she's gonna still try to get back in, but she might not be able to get back in for the rest of the show, unfortunately. So we're just gonna do what we can for now. But go ahead, Erin. What were you saying?
Did the Darkling seem like an asshole to you at the beginning of the book?
Yes. And I also feel like that is sort of a staple of these YA novels too, is like like we said, like there's always a dark, mysterious asshole guy who's also like hot and sexy, and, you know, yeah.
But was he also like not an asshole? Because I kept thinking, I'm like, okay, this guy is a jerk. But then at the same time, once they got to the palace, I'm like, so what he's doing isn't necessarily asshole-ish.
Yeah, I think it's because he wasn't what you would think of. He's not really royalty, but like he kind of is. But he would make all of the Grisha, who are you know, important people, and they live in this palace, he would have them eat peasant food because he wanted them to remain humble, which was, you know, kind of surprising. And I think, like, I feel like part of me kind of knew toward the end, like, he was going to turn out evil. But in the beginning, like, you want to believe he's really just, you know, he really believes in the cause and he wants to take down all the darkness and everything. But in the end, you find out he just wanted more power and he just wanted to take over and destroy.
Let's be honest, family. The guy comes out the chute being known as the Darkling. The Darkling. Like, how can you not? Like, which is why I was skeptical. And I was like, you aren't acting like as much of an asshole as you should be for this point in the story. And I was like, okay, son and daughter, y'all are gonna get together. Like, I was kind of a little bit for it, because I'm like, what an interesting turn of events.
Truly.
Dark and light actually getting down and together. I was ready to be surprised.
But alas,
the trope holds true.
Truly.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I'm supposed to ask you a question now.
Okay, go for it.
Do you want to answer that as well, as who is your favorite actor and how did you
Indeed. Well, actually, I have a mini fun story about the actor who plays Jesper. So in the show, he's a character that we don't see in the book, but he's sort of like the sidekick. He's always like when he goes on missions, he's always like off gambling, and he's sort of like the comic relief. And I really enjoy his character. He's really fun. So that actor, whenever I was studying abroad in London, I saw this performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Bridge Theatre in London, which is like a pretty small theater. And so like we were really up close to the stage, and he was in that. And I was like, oh, like he's such a great actor. So I was like following him on Instagram and everything. Well, now he's in this show, which I was like, oh my gosh, I saw him in like a theater show. So that was really awesome. I was like, you really popped off, man. You were like performing theater in 2019 in London. And granted, it was like a great show and like a really well-renowned show, but now he's like in a Netflix show. Like, good for you. That's awesome. I really loved his character. I loved the moment whenever, and this is not in the book. This is just in this part of the show. But I think it was the third episode where they meet with this person who can take them across the fold. And I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but the fold is basically like the dark, scary area that separates a bunch of these countries, and people don't really go through there because you will get attacked by these horrifying creatures called Volcra. And they are basically like giant winged, evil, horrifying looking bats, I guess. I don't know. They eat people. It's horrifying. So in order to cross through it, like it's really dangerous. But this one guy, he's built a train basically to get through. And there's this moment whenever this character that I really like, Jesper, he's just like freaking out, and they've brought a goat with them on the mission. And I think the idea, like, it makes you think that the goat is going to be a sacrifice to the Volcra, and it's like a really adorable goat. And at one point, the conductor who is leading the train is telling Jesper, he's like, pick up the goat. And Jesper's like, I'm not sacrificing the goat. And he's like, no, the goat is for you. Stop freaking out. Pet the goat. And it's so funny. And I just like that little moment of like comic relief in it, especially when they're going through this like horrible place where they're probably going to die, but they don't. So
His goodbye to the goat is so sincere.
I love it.
No, and turns out, I think the goat comes back.
Oh my gosh.
The goat comes back. Because I was trying to Chloe has read the book and watched the whole show. I was on the last couple of episodes trying to speed through like the final two. And so I was doing the thing where I'm like skipping and like, yeah. And he goes, okay.
Well, I did have another question I wanted to bring up. So I thought that the TV show did an interesting job sort of talking about some themes and paralleling some current events or like real world issues. And we talked a little bit earlier about how, so the actress who plays Alina is an Asian actress, and in the world there is definitely some discrimination against people who look Shu, so there's like 3 different regions in the book that are at war. One is the Shu, one is Ravka, and then the other is Fjordans. Yeah. So I didn't feel like as much in the book it was talked about, but it was very prevalent in the TV show of like she was being discriminated against. Like she would go in line to get her food and they would tell her to go to the back because she looked Shu. And so I thought that was like really interesting that they talked about that, especially with all the, stuff going on in the world with how Asian Americans are getting discriminated because of COVID and a whole stigma around that. And so I thought it was really interesting that they like really touched on that a lot more in the show.
Yeah, something that I thought was interesting, or I guess telling as well, was that the fact that on multiple of those occasions, like you said, there were multiple occasions, folks would do kind of like a double take, as kind of like, she looks Shu, ish. And they were still like, screw you anyways. Boom, boom. And it's like, like, yeah, she looks mildly Shu, therefore, because she was like part Shu, right? That was the whole
Yeah, she was half Shu in the show.
Half It makes me think of Ramekin, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. What are the other questions? I have no train of thought. That's why Chloe's here. She's supposed to be running this thing. Casting. Did you have any issues with the casting in the?
I thought the casting was really good, honestly, and I liked that. Like the casting was very diverse. There were a lot of people of color, which was great. And yeah, I thought that especially for Mal and Alina. So Alina's protagonist, and Mal is her best friend and love interest for most of the book. I thought that he was really great at being like this very protective, strong force in her life. And I thought on the other side, the other storyline in the TV show with Jesper and Cass and everything, and Inej, I thought they were all cast really well as well. So what were your thoughts on casting?
Yeah, that was something that I noticed, was how diverse the casting was, which is why it kind of like made me prick up my head when they were like, she's Shu. Because I was like, how can you tell she's Shu? Everyone's from everywhere. Even if you look at like the art, like they kept showing a flag that was like in the army flag, and it had like Asian looking design on it with like Russian like writing. And I'm like, you look in the scenes where they're like bar scenes or market scenes, and it's the book itself, the text itself is obviously very Russian influenced, because they talk about those jacket things and samovars and such. But when you look at the show, you can't tell where you are, except for the big fuzzy hats. Yeah. So I thought that was something that struck me, is I'm like, but everyone's so different. How can you tell?
Yeah, that's how
No, sorry. It was just like walking down the street and being like, yes, you're American.
Right. Yeah, because Mal looks, I mean, I think I looked up like what his ethnicity was, and I think he was Southeast Asian. So like, I think he was half Indian, but still Southeast Asian. And there were a lot of actors that were Indian or Southeast Asian, and they're the Asian actors from the same continent and general region as those actors. So I when I first looked at the actor who played Mal, I thought, maybe he looks kind of like Filipino or something. So like, why is he not being discriminated against? But I think they just like wanted to make a very poignant point of like, she looked specifically like what their enemy looked like. And so she instantly became an other, and she instantly, became the enemy.
Yeah. That makes sense. Even if I couldn't recognize it, they could in the story, which is what's more important for the storytelling. God, ignore me. Wow, I really need someone to keep me on the Chloe. Okay. Tell me you got something to vent on. What you got to riff on?
What was that?
I said, tell me you've got something to vent on. What have you got to riff on? This is my favorite part. I want to hear you go off.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I never know what to talk about when I get to these parts. Like, I have all these points I want to mention, and then I get to the vent and I'm like, what do I actually want to vent about? If you have points you want to go for, like, go off.
I really like it in the moments when they actually get like the details right? Like they start using legit lines from the text in the most important scenes, which they started doing. I was like, yes, thank you very much for that. They did some very good world building as well, because, like I said, they had these like two other paralleling plot lines that I didn't necessarily know where they came from or where they went. But you know what? They were done well. And for this Darkling fella, you know nothing about him because he is so old. No, Chloe didn't get to have her rant about how the 300-year-old man was acting like a 16-year-old, which he was. This Darkling is supposed to be like hundreds of years old. And here you are, you have this poor teenage girl. He's playing around with her feelings. It's cruel. It's cruel. But they gave him a whole backstory. They gave him like a whole episode origin story of like how the fold came about, which you don't hear about because it's literally just like that was so long ago. No one remembers.
Yeah, I need to I wanna read the other books first before I keep watching the show, so I don't spoil anything for myself. But in the first, so I only watched the first 3 episodes, and we really didn't see much of the Darkling in the show. For a second, I thought that Kaz, this new character in the other storyline, was the Darkling, and they just renamed him. I was very confused because we didn't see the Darkling for a long time, and then we finally got him in, and I was like, oh, there he is. He did his little cut small magic thing, which in the book and the show, there's an enemy attacking Alina, and he uses his powers. He's like 12 feet away, and he just like literally slices this guy in half with his darkness powers. It's really wild, but I was like, wow, what an entrance.
Yeah, no, and here's the fascinating thing is that apparently the cut is a legitimate move that is apparently very difficult to do. And I'm like, you have a specific move called the cut that is like, I don't know if there's like a herky kick flip. I don't know. I was trying to use skateboarding and cheerleading terms to create an image of like something that's very, very advanced. But they use it a lot in the television show. They're like, cut here, cut there, everybody cuts.
Everyone's getting sliced.
Everything will get sliced. If you aren't, then guess what? The wall behind you will be. That tree is going down.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I do have one thing I wanted to rant about. So, Alexei, which is in the book, he's like a minor character. He's just a friend of Alina's. He's a map maker. In the book, he dies pretty quickly. He dies from getting eaten by the Volcra. Tragic. In the movie, he somehow makes it through the folds. Like, he doesn't get eaten by the Volcra. And I was like, he jumps off of the little ship that they used to go off. And so you just think, oh, he's dead. Because he jumped off the ship. That's the only way to keep yourself safe at all, which people are still getting eaten off the ship. And so there's still several minutes between when he jumps off the ship and the magical thing that Alina does to save everyone, which is when she discovers that she has her sun summoning powers. She lets out her blast of light and it kills all the Volcra around her. But like I said, it's been several minutes between the time that Alexei jumped off the ship and the time that happens. And so he's apparently just running through the fold and he makes it through. He makes it to the edge, and he gets out. So I'm like, how on earth did he not get eaten? He would have gotten eaten. And then he ends up dying anyway later because he gets kidnapped and they try to use him for information. And they say, oh, once you tell us what we want to know, they'll let you go. Never trust the goons. They shoot him in the head. So he dies anyway. It's very tragic, but I didn't understand that part. He would have been dead in an instant.
I know, right?
Shreds.
Also, the other thing that killed me is that she didn't even technically know. Well, I guess she probably knew that guy, but in the book, there was like a whole friendship rubbing elbows. In this thing, he just kind of like pops up out of the middle of nowhere. And they give him a close up as he's walking onto the ship, and they throw a name at him, and it's like, okay, you unimportant character, you're gonna be important later.
Right. Yes.
And then you're not going to be important because we're going to kill you.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Alexi.
Oh, Alexi. Well, we've hit 9 o'clock, so I think we should end with what did we like better, book or the show adaptation, or any other thoughts you want to add, Erin?
I am going to say book because I am a detailed traditionalist, and the fact that like right out the gate I didn't know over half the people on the screen, I was like, who are you? Where did you come from? It was like they took some artistic license and put it all over this place. I think it was just like I liked the book better. They took a lot of the elements that were in the book and were just like, okay, we need this to happen faster. So how do we just like slide this in with a sharp and then move on so that maybe we don't have to actually build as much as possible. So I like world building. So I was like, show was good, high action, popcorn, but I like the book.
I also liked the book better, and I still did really enjoy the TV show. And like I said, I think the casting was great. I think they did a really good job of bringing the world to life and having it being very fantastical, and like the CGI was all really solid. It was really beautiful. But like I said, like I'm a sucker for this genre, and I love this kind of stuff. And the book, I was like addicted to reading it. Like I couldn't wait to keep reading it. And I was like so sucked into the world. And with the TV show, I just didn't have that same level of like, I have to be watching this constantly. I want to know what happens next. It was like, I really enjoyed it and it was great. But I just like, I really had that sense with the book of like, oh, I'm obsessed with this. I'm addicted.
Yeah, heard. Well, thank you for listening to this off the rails episode. We'll be sure that she is here next time. Please, Chloe.
Now that I'm I guess if we both leave the studio, that will end it because I'm realizing
we gotta do this. Chloe left us instructions. We have to do our Read.Watch.VENT schedule. So we had Shadow and Bone on September 9th. That is today. We're going to end it. So Reincarnation Papers / Infinite, I believe is a film. Reincarnations Papers, I believe is the book. So that's going to be on September 23rd. We're going to be reading, watching, and reviewing that. And then Halloween, we're going to be doing on October 21st with, I forget the name. I know what you did last summer.
Yes.
And then Dune on November 18th, which you must know about now so that you can read it. Chloe!
Hold on.
So that's going to be on September 20th.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
But we
Why is
see.
Oh, I see what's happening. Nope, that's what happened.
She's back.
Oh my god, dude.
We were
where
just
were
wrapping
you?
up.
I don't know. I also don't know how it kept streaming because my internet was completely gone and I had to like restart StreamYard. So yay StreamYard. And
Thanks,
I was
StreamYard.
watching on my phone, so you guys sounded great.
Oh, thank you.
I missed you.
We did.
No, you guys were telling everybody our schedule.
Yes, I think we finished it up. Chloe, were there any last thoughts you wanted to mention about the book, the movie? What you
Which my favorite? Honestly, I think I personally wasn't terribly attached to either the character in the book or in the movie, mostly just because I was like, she has no agency and it bothers me. But if I were picking, I think probably the show, but that's because I usually end up like film is my first like craft. So that usually ends up where I end up being like, I liked that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was probably the movie as far as my favorite goes.
Cool.
Fun. I won't keep you guys up too terribly late, but thank you for joining us. And at the end of the month, we will do the reincarnation papers, and the movie is called Infinite. The novel is by Eric Meyerkans. I'm sorry if I murdered that.
You said it's
Meyerkans?
sci-fi?
What?
And you said it's sci-fi.
Yes, it's like a sci-fi. It's a sci-fi movie or story, and the film stars Mark Wahlberg. So,
Well, Marky Mark.
yeah. So we'll have fun with that, and then, yeah, I know what you did last summer around Halloween. We'll be doing it the week before Halloween, so you guys can still go do your parties and listen to us. And then November we will do Dune. So you have lots of time to read the Dune book. And time to see the movie as well. So we love you guys. We will see you in a couple weeks. And then thereafter, roughly the third Thursday of every month. That's kind of the swing we're getting into, and we'll see how it goes. So thanks so much, ladies. And let's see if I can end this broadcast. All right. Bye, everybody.